Um, so again, I'm Shantae Parker from Shantae Parker Real Estate and Bennett Realty Solutions. I'm a realtor here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. I've been doing this live chat and shoot every Tuesday at 11 o'clock with industry experts that I feel have some really important information to share. Because I'm a former teacher, I'm all about education, and I believe information is power. And definitely as it relates to this pandemic, our finances, people, we definitely need to talk about our finances. And so Tayvon has been actually on me for the last, I don't know, few years, trying to get me to get my life together and definitely get my finances together. And finally, I got scared enough during this pandemic to say, you know what? Really, I started before the pandemic, but it was really on the eve of the pandemic. It was at the end of last year. You know, I need to really get myself together. And one of the things that I can say is that growing up, I know that my father, at some point, he was an entrepreneur. Many people in my family were entrepreneurs. He was definitely a millionaire, but he definitely didn't die a millionaire when he passed away. And that's something that really bothers me, that in my lifetime, I saw a lot of spending, a lot of money. And my parents definitely taught me how to work really hard. I definitely have that same hustle and grind. But financial literacy is something that we also need to teach our children, and it's something, and preparing for their financial future is something we need to start very young. My parents actually paid for me to go to college because they practiced savings bonds. So they started getting savings bonds when I was born. So every single week when my mother got paid, she got savings bonds. And so my college tuition at Spelman was paid through savings bonds. So obviously they had a practice of saving, but my mom actually worked for the government. But my father was an entrepreneur like I am. And it was just, he made money. He just didn't know how to, I don't know, put it up, prepare for when he was retired. Because he basically retired on Social Security with no other money left. And when you die, you know, your Social Security goes with you. So there's nothing left, you know, for your family. And luckily my mother had life insurance for him. So something that is my greatest fear is not leaving a legacy, not being able to take care of myself as I age and I become retired. I'm looking at my notes because I wrote some for you, Tayvon. Being a serial entrepreneur and just working for the rest of my life in a situation like this. Luckily, I'm a realtor, but what if I was a hairstylist or a nail person or an Uber driver or whatever, and there's no income coming in? What would I do if I didn't have some savings or some other places where I can tap into some resources? And so that is why I wanted to do this today. That's my own personal testimony, and I'm sure Tayvon has one as well. But I want us, I feel like if you know better, you do better. And he's come to enough of my classes. I've learned enough from him that I definitely want to do better. And I tell him that all the time. And I'm definitely in the practice of doing better now. We've been doing some really great things together. I've been referring my friends to him. So if you have not got your stuff together and you don't want a GoFundMe account for your funeral, you definitely need to be calling him when this conversation is over. So we are going to get right into it. So Tayvon Jackson, everybody, tell us about yourself, sir.
How you doing? Thanks for having me. So, one, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak to your friends and Facebook and Instagram and on Zoom. So a little bit about me. I'm a financial advisor here in Washington, D.C. I've been a financial advisor for 10 years. So I'm 32, but I've been in it since I was 22. So I'm sitting down right now, but people can't see that I'm used to play basketball. I'm 6'8". Very tall.
Very tall.
I was fortunate enough to get a basketball scholarship to Mount St. Mary's University, triple major there in math, accounting, and business. I got into finance. It's kind of a sad situation. So my best friend in college, he actually had to drop out of school due to a financial situation. What happened was his mom stayed at home and his dad had a pension. So what happened was when the dad passed away, the pension stopped. So he actually had to drop out of school to pretty much raise the family, help his mom out. Wow. And the crazy thing that happened was that the reason the pension stopped was because the husband chose an annuity or a pension that's only for his life. He didn't choose the joint life option, which is what you should do if you're married.
Wow.
So just that one check mark that he made messed up his whole financial picture for the whole family. Wow. So I really wanted to get into financial literacy. That's so important, especially in our community. I've written multiple books about financial education, and that's like really my passion. Whether you have a $10 problem or a $10 million problem, like if I can add some value to your life and give you some information that will stop you from making a bad decision, that's what I'm all about. So I used to work for a company called Edward Jones for 5 years in Waldorf. And then I started my own practice called New Perspective Wealth Management. And I'm really like a entrepreneur. I have multiple companies. I have a book publishing company. I have an ATM machine company. So I believe in multiple streams of income. But what I'm really passionate about is financial literacy, and I'm excited to be here. So.
Thank you. So since you said that, and this is not on our questions, because I did ask you some questions before, what do you think the secret is to building wealth? Is there a secret? Do you have the secret? Can you share it with us?
You know, what I think the secret is really time in the market. You know, the problem is everybody's trying to get rich quick. And what happens is they get broke quick by just jumping into certain situations. So the way the stock market's set up is that if you do it for a long period of time, it's usually going to be on your favor. You can't retire in a year, 2 years, unless you come up with a great idea or a great invention. But if you actually just plan it out early, a lot of people just guess when they want to retire. They say, hey, I'm gonna put away $1,000 a month or $100 a month. And there's no plan associated with it. They're just doing it because their friends are doing it. So you really got to have a plan, and you got to start early. So if it's any secret, it will be that. And then also, most people give you statements, financial statements. Mm-hmm. That's the worst thing in the world, in my opinion. Because when you get your 401k statement and you see that it's down, you're going to want to try to fix the problem. You're going to want to try to be that financial guru and make a change, and you end up messing yourself up. Mm-hmm. So I think if there were no statements at all and people just put money away for their working career, everybody would be millionaires. Right. But we're emotional, so that causes us to make emotional decisions.
So how do you think that the pandemic has affected us financially, us in general, or however you want to share about that?
Well, multiple ways. So one, it gives us an opportunity. So let's talk about the good first. Okay. So when the market goes down, that's not a bad thing. It's a bad thing if you react to the market going down and you take out everything. Okay, you buy low or you sell low. So the market has been up since 2008. The market's just been going up, and it hasn't gone down in a long time. So this actually gives us an opportunity for the market to be on sale for us to buy at a low price. So with our 401ks and people who have thrift savings plans with the government and any retirement plan that they might have, every 2 weeks when they put money in, when the market's down, they're going to buy more shares. Okay, so it's kind of like a Black Friday sale. Like, you don't want to go to the mall when everything's expensive. You want to go buy when things are really, really low. So this gives them the opportunity to just, hey, that money you're putting in every 2 weeks, that's going to benefit you because you're buying things at a low price. So I think it's actually good for us. I would say that the government shutdown that happened, that should have been our first wake-up call that we need to properly plan if this happens again. And then when this happened, people still weren't prepared. They didn't have an emergency fund. The country's only really been shut down for like a month. And we see that, hey, people just don't have adequate savings to last 3 to 6 months. Most people don't even have 30 days. So hopefully when all this gets better.
Have 2 weeks. What you saying?
Or one day. I ain't want to say it, but you said it.
Yeah, most people live in check to check. Let's keep it real. I mean, I know as a teacher, which I was before, 20 years before I was a realtor. One reason why I became a realtor is because I wanted the ability to make as much as I wanted to make with no capacity, no limit. And so despite how many degrees I have, which are 1 million, and despite all the years of training and education, really I was never going to make over $100,000 as a teacher. In fact, I made probably the same $77,000 for like 15 years. And I could see, and when I would meet with the retirement rep, I would look at the retirement and say, literally, when I'm not a teacher, when I'm at retirement age, I'm going to be poor. Like, how am I going to take care of myself with this minimal, I don't know what it was. It was like $1,200 a month. It was very little. And so that's why I always had another job anyway. But out of all the things that I have done, real estate has seemed to be the recession-proof job. That it has allowed me to continue to be successful despite whatever the market is doing. So I agree with you that the pandemic in real estate has definitely been a positive. Um, it has forced more people to act now versus they're sitting in their house or apartment and they're looking at their space saying, you know what, this is probably not a good idea. I'm wasting money renting when I could have purchased a home and I could be paying my mortgage. And the rates are so low, people are encouraged to do it now. So I'm actually more busy now during the pandemic than I was prior to the pandemic. Could be an effect of just it being a spring market, but you would think with social distancing and people staying home that it would be less people. But in fact, it's not. It's kind of crazy in the real estate market right now in a good way. I don't see that. I think that eventually it will affect pricing, but right now the prices are still pretty progressive in terms of going up, and it's still really, really competitive in terms of making offers. And so prior to our call, we were talking about investing in a property. So the object is to buy low so you can have a higher return. And so those deals are not as plentiful as they used to be because there are a lot of people in the marketplace. And so, but as time goes on in this pandemic, we will probably see a lot of changes in that because of what you said. So one of the things you mentioned was emergency fund. You've talked to me about that several times, about the emergency fund. What do you suggest? What's a proper emergency fund?
Yeah, so what I recommend is that the first thing you got to have is a budget. And if you don't have a budget, then you don't know how much you need to put away in an emergency fund. So you need you need to know your budget. How much are you spending a month? And then what you do is take that monthly amount, the rent, the mortgage, the cable, the utilities, multiply by 6, and that's the number that you need to put away. But then the problem that people face is that they put their emergency fund in the same bank account that all their other accounts are in. So with today's society, it's so easy to make your savings account your checking account just by transferring money. Then you end up using it when it wasn't supposed to be used. So what I recommend is going to a bank that's about 20 miles from where you live. Okay, when you set up that savings account, make sure that you don't get any type of debit card and make sure that you don't get online account access for that savings account, in my opinion. And then the only time you're going to go there is for an emergency. You're not going to transfer it into your fund or your travel fund. It's really for emergency. So I make sure all of my clients set up a fund 20 miles away, preferably like a community bank, and then just get no online, no card, and it's there. It's there for emergency first. So.
And how many months did you have in there?
So you should have 12, but most people say you need to have at least 3 to 6 months. 3 months should be the minimum, just so if the country did shut down for 90 days, you're good. You got the savings, So that's what I recommend. But 3 months will be a good start. 6 months should be the goal.
Okay. So, is there anything that you would tell us? I mean, we're already in the pandemic right now, and hopefully we will come out of this really soon. Lots of people are anxious to get back to work and just get out. I mean, prior to this conversation, we were talking about traveling. I know that's something you love to do. It's definitely something I love to do. How do we, right? How do we pandemic proof ourselves? What do we need to do moving forward from this point? If we hadn't done anything prior, what would be some suggestions we can do now?
Yeah, well, one thing would be the emergency fund first, just so if this happens again, you're protected. Also, maybe getting a second stream of income. So we saw it twice with the federal government that shut down. People were out of work. Now you're seeing barbers and stylists and restaurant owners. They're out of work as well, and they don't have any other form of income. They're not doing Mary Kay. They're not doing anything. Just that.
Yeah,
so,
they let go 3,500 Uber drivers yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't even know they could let you go. Okay.
Well. It was like a 3-minute Zoom call, and they told all of them that they were services were no longer needed.
Wow. But yeah, that second hustle, that's why years ago I said, you know what, if any one of my companies is slow, then I want to make sure I have multiple streams of income. So that's why I wrote my books. So I have royalties coming in when people are buying books and Kindle, especially when they're not doing anything at home right now. A lot of my ATM machines are shut down because they're in barbershops and salons and clubs. But I got my publishing company. People are home. They want to write their books. People need financial advice. So that's the two main things. Set up that emergency fund so it won't happen again, and you'll be protected. And then also make sure you have multiple streams of income. So I don't know if you have any different streams of income, Shante, but that's how you got to do it.
Yeah. I do, but I really I want my mainstream to be invested in real estate. So that is what I'm working towards.
That's good.
So that's my retirement plan, my investment properties.
Mhm.
Um what about, I mean, I know that I got life insurance through you.
Yeah.
Um and I know that there are many, I mean, we could
Yeah.
talk about life insurance in one call. But what are some tips about life insurance? What's a proper policy?
Yeah.
What's the difference in the types of policies? I mean, I know you schooled me. I mean, just from permanent versus term, I had a term policy and didn't even know I had a term policy
Yep.
until you pointed that out to me, and now I have a much more secure policy. But can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, let's talk about it. So the problem with life insurance is that most people don't really know what they have. And also, most people only have death insurance, which means that it's only going to benefit somebody else. It doesn't benefit yourself. So the insurance industry has changed. So if you talk to anybody that's not really familiar with life insurance, the only two insurance policies they know is term and whole life.
Mm-hmm.
The only two they know. Another problem is that, not to say in our community, but a lot of people are selfish. And what I mean by that is I've talked to a lot of clients and I ask them, well, how much do you want to leave to your family? And they say, I just want enough to bury me. So they don't want to leave any type of legacy. They just want to leave 15,000, 25,000 just to bury you. So this life insurance is, unfortunately, it's a lottery that's always going to pay out one day. And if you have the opportunity and the budget to be able to leave hundreds of thousands of dollars to you, just imagine if you received $100,000 right now, what impact that can have on you financially. And the younger you start, the easier it is because you can do it for less than $100 a month. But people wait till they have health conditions or they wait till they're in their 40s and 50s and 60s and then they consider getting insurance. You got to do it immediately. And with the coronavirus right now, insurance companies are not even insuring people if they come in contact with the COVID-19 at all. And that's because they don't know the long-term impact and the effects that it's going to have on you. Wow. So if you, all these companies now, they're waiving medical exams. So this is the time, if anything, to get insurance now on your family. And usually you have to look at your salary. So if we were married, Shantae, and you're making $100,000 a year, you can't just get 1 year's worth of salary. So you can't just get $100,000 policy, because when I lose your income, then guess what? What's going to happen year two? Yeah. So you want to look at like 7 to 10 years worth of your income, just to give your family time to adjust. But most people get the minimum, like 100,000, 150, 200. But you need so much more than that if you want your family to kind of live that same lifestyle they were living before.
So I talked about my family investing in savings bonds, and I remember one time in a class you did like an illustration on savings plans, and I'm at the age where, you know, I have a 17-year-old daughter. She's college bound next year, and I have not properly prepared for her being college bound next year. So for people like me in this position who have children in high school or just have children in period, what should they be doing, knowing the increased cost of college and just taking care of a child, period? What type of advice would you give parents?
My number one advice, it may not be the best advice for everybody because everybody loves their kids. I always say that you can get a loan, you can get a grant, you can get a scholarship for college, but you cannot get that for your retirement. Okay, it's either you have it or you don't. So a lot of parents get in a lot of debt and they take out money out of their 401ks to pay for the kids' college, and then that sets them back financially a lot. Yeah. So the first thing I would do is plan early. So if they're 17, 18, to be honest with you, it's too late. It's too late to be trying to put money away for, you might be able to buy books, but you're not going to be able to buy anything else. So it really starts with planning early. There's a lot of different vehicles out there that they can use. The plan that we set up for you, the LERP, you could talk about that later, but you can use that for the college, the tax-free way. I don't like the 529 plans, which most people have heard of, just because they limit you to college. So what if your child wants to be a realtor, or they want to be a financial advisor and they don't want to go to school, or they want to go to, like I said, a community college? You don't want to be locked in.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to be locked into a plan that you can only use for college and that it will have penalties for you if you don't.
And is there a maximum on that you can even put in there?
In the 529 plan, yeah, there is. So there's different maxes for the 529 plan. So the advantage of it is that if you put money in a stock, let's say you put $1,000 in Disney, and then over 18 years, it's now 100,000.
Mm.
When you sell it, you got to pay taxes on that money. It's called capital gains.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put it in a college savings plan, that 1,000 that grew to 100 will be tax-free if you use it for college. So that was the whole advantage of it, is that it's a tax-free way to send the kid to college, but it did limit your options if they decided not to go. You can change beneficiaries, you can do that, but still you want a plan that's a little bit more flexible. So maybe using like a Roth IRA is a way that you can do it. And even the index universal life policy, that's a good way to do it as well, just because you don't have those same restrictions and limitations. And
what
then
happens if they don't go to college? What happens to the money?
if they don't go to college, so if they, in the 529 plan, if they were to get a scholarship, you can take out the money of the scholarship out of the plan. So if they got a $50,000 scholarship, you can take $50,000 out. But if they don't use it for college, then you can give it to another child, or you can use it for yourself. Generally, the rule of thumb is one generation up, one generation down.
Gotcha.
So you can give it to yourself, but you wouldn't be able to give it to your grandma, you know? So every plan's different. So that's why it's really important to really have a review on everything. For the people who are working right now, I would say, honestly, make sure they're taking advantage of the match. So if your 401k, your TSP is matching you 6%, don't put 3 in, because you're missing out on free money.
Yeah.
But anything above the match, I don't recommend putting that extra money into the 401k. So a lot of people try to max their 401k out, but what they're really doing is delaying a bigger problem. So what's going to happen is that's going to be a bucket of money that you eventually have to pay taxes on when you retire. And with the amount of debt that our country's in, and with Social Security and pensions running out, taxes are going to go up in the future. So there's a chance that you might have to pay way more in taxes taking the money out than you actually save putting the money in. So that's why it's so important to talk with like a planner to kind of organize it for you and put it all together.
So yeah, so that was actually our next question about 401k, stocks, bonds, savings, and all that. Yeah. You just kind of talked about it. Is there anything else you want to share about that?
Yeah, you want to get as much tax-free money as possible. So if you think about it, most people's retirements are their pensions, which are going away, Social Security, rental income.
All right there. When you say it's going away, what do you mean? For people
so you used to be able to work a job 40 years, retire, and then get 80% of your income in retirement. That was a pension. But the problem is now people are living longer. So back in the 1950s, the life expectancy was 65. So it was easy. You retire at 60, live 5 years, get your pension, then die. So now people are living to be 90, 95, 100 years old. So these companies can't keep cutting those checks. And that's another reason why Social Security the fund is running out, because people are living longer. When Social Security came out, everybody's full retirement age was 65 and the life expectancy was 65. So you weren't even supposed to make it to get Social Security.
Right.
So with people living longer, these pensions are going away. Companies are now making the 401k people's retirement. So versus the employer doing it for you, now you have to kind of do it for yourself. And most people don't know how to properly plan it. They know how to make the money. If you just put the money in for a long time, you can make the money, but they don't know how to live off of it and make it last for the rest of your life. And that's what I specialize in, is just income planning. But yeah, with the 401k, like I said, try to get as much tax-free money as possible. So if you have a 401k Roth, so usually 401ks has like a little attachment, the 401k Roth, I would contribute to that. The Roth IRA, I would contribute to that. And then also the IUL, which is life insurance. If you overfund a life insurance policy, it can be tax-free for you as well. So those 3 options I would 100% recommend.
I have a good question. So when I was a teacher, DC and Maryland were very different. But in Maryland, people like you would come to talk to teachers about, like ING came, different companies would come to talk to us about retirement planning, but nobody from work ever really, from like the employment office or human resources, ever talked to us about that. In DC, it was a little different because I feel like the benefits in DC were a lot better. If you are employed somewhere, like the federal government, for example, what advice, how do you figure out what you have And should you use your employer to do that, or do you recommend using an outside source?
Yep. So let's just use federal government, for example. So the way federal government used to be, it used to be a program called the civil service.
Yeah.
And what they did is they worked 30, 40 years and got all their income in retirement. So now they switched over to the FERS, which means the pension's smaller, but you get the TSP and Social Security and some other things.
Mm-hmm.
So the TSP, the Thrift Savings Plan, you should definitely contribute to it. The max is 6%, so you should be doing 6% in there. With regards to the funds, most people put all their money in what's called the G fund. That's a fund that doesn't go up, it doesn't go down, it's just like a money market. It's very conservative. They'll do that for 20, 30 years and realize, hey, I only got 50,000 in retirement when they could have had 500,000. So if you don't learn anything from it, just make sure you don't have all your money in the G fund.
That's crazy.
And it's pretty much the same as if you were to just save in your bank account versus investing in stocks.
Mm-hmm.
Saving your bank account for 30 years, you'll have a certain amount of money. And if you save in stocks for a certain amount of years, you have way more money.
Mm-hmm.
So with the federal government, I would say that TSP, just make sure they do the match. And then anything above that, do into the TSP Roth or the Roth IRA, or like I said, the Index Universal Life Policy.
So let me ask you another question. So my mother worked in the government for 30 years.
Okay.
33 years to be exact. So she has a retirement and Social Security. She's 75, so she's done what you said.
Yep.
Life expectancy past what they expected. So I remember maybe about a few years ago, maybe like 10 years ago, before she retired. Before she retired, 10 years ago, we sat down with someone and she was paying a lot of money for health insurance, for life insurance. I mean, not health insurance, life insurance. I feel like the contribution was like $300 a month, something really ridiculous. So she had no idea that she was even paying that much for life insurance that basically once she retired began to diminish. So where she may have had a $300,000 policy, now at age, when she was 40 something, now at age 75, she doesn't. And I talked to you about getting a new policy for her. And because she's 75, it was like $250 a month for like nothing, like $10,000 in insurance. So is that true that it diminishes? And then what do you do if you're a person of age? Like I'll be 50 very soon. What do you do? How do you figure this out? And how do you?
Great question. So we kind of talked about the GoFundMe's and how we want to get rid of those.
Yeah.
So one thing you got to realize is that a lot of people that I talk to say they have life insurance, but it's through the job. So you have to realize that life insurance through the job is most likely term insurance. So that means while you're working, you're covered. When you stop working, you're not as covered. So the problem with that is that most people have 3 to 5 times their salary, but the chances of you dying during your working career is less than what would happen once you retire. You're going to probably die later in life, not in your 30s, 40s, 50s. So what happens with the federal government, especially, is that you get 3 times your salary or more, but then when you retire, it dwindles down each year till it's only about like 25,000. And you still have to make that payment. So the best thing to do is before you get in your 70s, get a permanent policy outside of it. It may be expensive. It may be more expensive than coming out of your paycheck, but at least you know it's going to be the same payment for the rest of your life. It's not going to blow up on you. It's not going to go from $25 to $300. You're going to pay the same payment, but at least you know it's always going to be there. So anybody who just only has insurance with the job, just know that you're covered while you're working. And every company's different, but it may not be there when you retire. So.
Right. So just to emphasize what you're saying, when you asked me what type of policy I had and we found out that it was term, I had already been paying into it. It basically would have ended at age 62, which is almost 13 years from now. Mm-hmm. And so I would have not had any, or I would have tried to get some at that time. And then it would have probably been not affordable because it would have been.
Term, to me, I think it's a good investment. If you have young kids, let's say I have a newborn, mm-hmm. and I get a 20-year term, then it's important for me to have that because for the next 20 years, that child is dependent on me. Mm-hmm. If something were to happen to them, I want to make sure that they can stay in the home, they can go to college, and term is really cheap. So that's the great thing about it.
Yeah.
But if you outlive that term, so if the kid lives to be 21 years of age, then I don't get anything. So you're really paying for that peace of mind that if something were to happen, you're covered. And that's how the insurance companies price it. They know that you're probably going to live longer than the term. That's why they make it so cheap. And only 2% of term policies actually end up paying out anyway. 98% of them, people live too long and then the insurance company won the game. So term is good. If you have kids, if you just bought a house and you got a 30-year mortgage, you might get a 30-year term to go along with that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also need that permanent policy as well, just so that when that term expires, you still have something continuing to go on for you. So
I had a question, but I just forgot what it was.
Then also, just to add another point, so with the permanent policies now, a lot of them have what's called living benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to ever have a situation where you have what's called a living death. And what that means is that you're alive, but you're killing everybody financially because you're alive. So whether you have cancer, whether you have stroke, whether you're on your deathbed and those bills are coronavirus, these bills are continuing to add up, but then you have this $1 million life insurance policy that can't nobody touch. So now these insurance companies have what's called living benefits. So if you have $1 million policy and you get sick, you can access the $1 million while you're living. Pay those bills. So a lot of people who've gotten policies 10 years or longer ago, they don't have that. They might want to look into adding that living benefit coverage. So
I know what I was going to say. You mentioned something, but I also want to put a stamp on that and emphasize it. You said that one of the reasons we're going to talk about the IUL, and maybe this is a good time to talk about it. We talked about the IUL, and that was a really important vehicle for me to invest in for a lot of reasons. So I do want you to share about that. But one of the things you said a few moments ago was that there's no medical something. Can you talk about that?
A lot of the carriers have no medical exam. So if you applied for life insurance, let's say this month, then you really just have to answer some questions and you'll either get an approval or a denial. But at least you don't have to have somebody come to the house, take your blood, your urine. Yeah, it's a lot quicker.
Yeah, and remember when people have been talking about in our community how we have a lot of underlying medical conditions that some of us may not even know we have, like high blood pressure or whatever. So if you never had a policy or you want to get a better policy, this is probably a smart time to give Tayvon a call so he can help you get your life together.
Yeah, and they're still going to check your records and everything. They do their due diligence, but like I said, it's much more efficient now. And I think they might continue to do this once this is over because they're seeing that, hey, we don't even need to do this blood and urine. We can just ask you some medical questions, see what medications you're taking, and still come up with a decision. So
yeah, I mean, I just believe in getting insurance. I mean, even with something like this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but kind of travel insurance. I never used to get travel insurance before. I would be like, I mean, what's going to happen? I'm going on a trip. I don't need that. I just saw it as an extra expense that I was already paying a certain amount. I didn't want to pay extra. And the first time I ever got travel insurance was for a trip that I was supposed to take this year to Bali and Dubai. Because the trip was so expensive, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. It was only $110. And I got all of my $5,000 back by making that one investment. So thank God I changed my mindset and said, this is something that's really important. And so I think even in talking to you a million times, I'm still learning every time we talk on more things that I need to do with my own finances. And so with people that I've seen people, getting their stimulus checks or getting their unemployment or whatever they're getting. Some people are getting more money now than they were getting before when they were working. Is there any idea, anything that you would tell them to do with that money instead of going to buy Jordans or Yeezys?
I'm gonna be very honest with you. It might not be what everybody wants to hear, but I would say if you got a stimulus check, put it in the bank. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that just because, as I mentioned, that emergency fund. Well, here's the problem. Everybody wants to invest in ATMs, real estate, stocks. But what happens is when an emergency happens, they got to get out of that investment because they don't have the proper savings. Mm. So yeah, everybody wants to buy Netflix stock and it's going up and it's going up and it's going up. But if your car breaks down, then guess what? You got to sell the Netflix stock because you haven't put away enough savings.
Yeah.
But if you do have savings, then you probably could invest in the stock market. I don't do too much stock market investing, but I do invest in companies that I like and that I know. So I like Netflix. I like Disney. I like Walmart, I like Target, but The medical marijuana companies, I don't know too much about it, so I'm not going to invest in it. So, but that goes kind of back to everybody trying to chase that fast return. Just get the companies that you know and that you use. If you buy Jordans, buy Nike stock, you know? And if you have kids that you're trying to save for, don't put them in a CD or a savings bond, because that's really not benefiting them. That's for people who are retired in their 70s. If anything, buy that 1-year-old a Disney stock or a Walmart stock or a Tesla stock and just let it ride out. So that's what I would do, personally.
So is there an average time period of, I mean, I know it's long term, but is there an average time period that you actually see a benefit from the stock?
5 years. 5 years.
5 years?
5 years is
how much money, if you had some extra money that you're not using right now, how much money would it take you to get started if you wanted to invest in stock?
Yeah, so you can start as little as $25 a month. So there's an investment called an ETF, or most people heard of mutual funds. So the way that works is that you can lose all your money in one stock, but you can't lose all your money in a basket of stocks. So an ETF is just like a mutual fund. It's like a basket of all these different stocks. And it's kind of like buying an Easter basket. You really can't choose what you want in the basket, but you can choose which basket you want. So you might be able to get like a technology basket that has like Facebook, Microsoft, Netflix, and then you own all these companies with one investment. So I think the ETFs are actually safer than just buying Netflix by itself, because then you got that risk that what happens, like what if you buy Uber and then Uber goes out of business, you lost all your money. So the ETF just gives you more diversification, and you can just download apps like Robinhood, Stash. You can open up a Fidelity, E-Trade. You can do it yourself, so you don't have to pay a financial advisor to do that for you. But yeah, it's definitely, I always recommend every time you get paid, buy one asset and pay off one liability. So every time I get paid, buy a stock or buy an investment and pay down one liability. So if it's paying off a credit card or making a payment to a credit card, just make sure you get in the habit of always buying assets and always paying down liabilities, because then eventually your net worth kind of going to go like that. Your assets are going to go up, your liabilities are going to go down. And if you get that habit early, when you start selling $1 billion homes like you and get more money, then you'll have more money to kind of buy more things and pay off some more stuff. So,
okay. Yep. So I think that I'm reading the questions.
You want me to touch on the IUL a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the IUL, so how can I explain it? So you can actually get insurance on your retirement accounts. So you get insurance on your life, you get insurance on your car, your home, but most people don't know you can insure your retirement accounts as well. So 2 investments. There's an investment called a fixed index annuity. And what that is that's the stock market wrapped around an insurance policy. So the only way that you're able to get this is if you have an IRA with more than $25,000 in it, or if you have a 401k that's from a previous job. Okay, you can't do it with your employer's plan. You got to do it. So if I change jobs and you left being a teacher and you have an old 403b, you can do it with that. So the way it works is that there's no fees associated with it, and whatever the stock market does on the upside, you do a percentage of it, usually about half. But if the market were to crash, you stay even. You will never lose a penny ever. So for the people who have lost money due to the coronavirus in their accounts, if they were in this, they wouldn't lose anything at all. Wow. That's called a fixed index annuity. And with regards to the IUL, all that is a permanent life insurance policy that you can use for your retirement. It's a tax-free way to put away money. So the way that works is that, let's say, Shantae, you had like auto insurance you had to pay. And let's say your premium is $200 a month for your auto insurance.
Right.
How much are you going to give them each month?
$200.
$200. So with the IUL, what happens is with life insurance, if your premium is $200 and you put more than what's required, that extra money not only grows tax-free, but you can pull it out tax-free. So what we did for you is we want to get a small death benefit, but we want to overfund it, because it's a tax law that allows you to kind of cheat the system, and that money that's what a lot of millionaires used to do. They didn't contribute to a 401k. They just dumped hundreds of thousands into life insurance because they knew the tax law. And the tax law has not changed.
Legacies.
Yeah, the tax law hasn't changed, so you can still do it. So that's what an IUL is. So it's a life insurance policy. You also can use it while you're living, and then you also will get a tax-free check in retirement for as long as you live if you structure it the right way. So.
And does the death benefit grow?
Yep, the death benefit grows as well. Yeah. So.
And is getting an IUL, so let's just talk about, so in terms of insurance, what would be a good stash to have? What I know what I have, but what would you recommend to?
Yeah. So I would say first you want to get a permanent life insurance policy, which the IUL is. Mm-hmm. So you can get a permanent life insurance policy. Make sure it's not the bare minimum, 25, 50,000. Make sure it's enough to leave a legacy to your family. So I would say 5 to 10 times what your income is. That would be ideal.
Okay.
So let's just talk about the whole plan together. You want to have 3 to 6 months living expenses in a separate bank account, mm-hmm. and not the one you bank with. You want to make sure you're doing the match in your 401k because that's free money. That's a 100% return on your money. Anything above the match that you want to do, you either put it in a Roth IRA, because that's tax-free, or you'll do the IUL, which is like life insurance tied with a retirement plan. Mm-hmm. And then once you have all that stuff set up properly, there's really nothing else that you need to do but get your debt down. So you don't want to have debt in retirement. So the credit cards, the student loans, like your goal should be, hey, when I turn 60 and I retire, I want to be debt free. Okay, so whether it's paying additional principal payments to the mortgage, like so you know that, and then it's a lot of things you can do. Because you don't need to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to retire. You just have to be able to get your debt down and have enough residual income to cover your bills.
Yeah.
So a lot of advisors, they say, well, you got to retire at 70 and 65. You can retire in the next 5 to 10 years if you plan properly, get all your bad debt out of the picture.
So you've talked about a lot of different streams. You mentioned your ATMs. You can elaborate on that a little bit. You talked about investing in the stock market. You talked about creating your own retirement through all of these different vehicles. You talked about your publishing company. So you're just a serial entrepreneur with a whole bunch of residual bags of money coming in. Can you share, like, is there a limit on how many streams you should have? How should somebody figure out what streams, how do you figure this out?
So there's no limit to how many different streams you're going to have. I'm about to buy a tow truck, actually, so I'm going to get streams from that doing towing cars. But there's no limit to how many streams you want to have. You just want to make sure that you delegate. So you don't want, if you're primary, let's say you're a real estate agent, you don't want to be doing all these other different things that's stopping you from doing your primary source of income. Mm-hmm. So what I'm big on is delegating. I had a hard time at doing that at first. When I had my book publishing company, I wanted to do the book covers and edits. I wanted to put my hand in everything. And then my mentor told me this quote, hope I don't mess it up, but he said 80% is good by somebody else is better than 100% is good by you. So if you can get somebody else to do it almost as good and you don't have to do anything, then that frees up your time. And with any business, you want to make sure that you have really good systems in place. Mm-hmm. Okay, you don't want to just be going all over the place. So the reason why McDonald's is such a great company is because a 16-year-old kid can go work there and they don't lose a beat because they have good systems in place. And I make sure I have that with all of my businesses so that I'm not actively in the business. And if you ever were to sell your business, you wouldn't be able to if you're the only person that's running it. Like if you're the business, you can't sell your business. So a lot of people, let's say, I can't even give an example, but I don't know. Let's say I had a t-shirt company I was selling, but I'm doing everything. I'm doing this and this and this and this. And then when I retire and I want to sell my business for $1 million, they're going to be like, well, you're the business.
Yeah.
So you have those systems in place to be able to kind of book it up and sell it to somebody else. So delegation is the key thing.
So one of the things I want to invest in with you that you talk about is ATMs. And prior to the pandemic, you did say that the best place were salons, barbershops and nail salons and hairstylists. So talk about the ATM business a little bit and how is that doing for you since the pandemic? And if somebody is interested in that, how can they?
Yeah, so some of my locations are shut down because I had some barbershops and nail shops and salons, but let's just talk about pre-pandemic. You don't have to be a bank to own an ATM machine. You just buy it. It's about $2,300 to buy. And then what you want to look for is places that need cash, whether it's a nail shop that doesn't take credit card tips, they only take cash tips, or a barbershop. And then you just get approval from the owner and you ask them, you know what, hey, I got a free ATM machine that I can put in your establishment. It's free because you paid for it, so it's free to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a partnership. So every time somebody swipes it and they pay that $3 or $7 or whatever you set it at, it goes into your bank account each day. And then for the business owner, you can give them a percentage of that. So if you're charging $3, you can give them 75 cents just for that partnership, just for allowing, it's kind of like rent. It's for allowing them to utilize that space for you. And like I said, I've been fortunate enough to have over 100 machines, a lot of residual income coming from it. And then I used to fill them myself, but as I mentioned before, you don't want to have your hands in everything. So now I have a company that fills all the machines for me. So even though I'm losing like 30% of my profit, I don't do anything. So that's a way better use of my time. Like,
yeah, I mean, you said that basically you should be making about $500 a month per machine. So
about 250. Let's say 250.
I
Let's
want
be
to be aggressive.
Yeah, 250. 250
Okay.
worst case.
Okay, 250 a machine. So in a year, basically, you paid off that one machine. So you own all of your machines without debt. So you want them to make money, but if they don't, you're okay because you're not paying any bill.
Yeah, I said 250 as my like borderline because unlike real estate, if you don't like the location, you just pick the machine up and move it somewhere else. You're never stuck in a bad situation. So that's why I like the ATMs, and I like that better than the vending machines because I don't want to go get a truck and get all these chips and sodas. ATM's 30 seconds, put the money in and you out.
Right.
So it's a lot more convenient, but location, just like with everything, location is the most important part.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, and one more thing, I've been talking on all of these chat and choose. I've been talking to people about, you're at home. It's a pandemic.
Sure.
Many people are suffering, definitely, but many people are home just kind of twiddling their thumbs watching Netflix and not utilizing their time. So what I've been suggesting is that you use this time. We will probably never have this much time on our hands ever again, to really try to do something productive. Take some classes. If you wanted to invest in something, do that. And one of my dreams was to write a book. I want to write a whole series of books, for children's books. And so if somebody was interested in that, I know you have a publishing company. Tell us a little bit about that as well.
So the reason I started my publishing company is because I saw a lot of people getting overcharged to get their book out. So a lot of these publishing companies are like funeral homes, and they get you while you're emotional, and they say, you know what, you want to write this book? It's $20,000. And then people do it because they're so passionate about it. So I started my companies very affordable. If you don't want to write your book, we will write it for you. We have some great ghostwriters that will write the whole book just from your telephone conversations. We're self-publishing, so you keep all the rights, you keep all the money that you make. And yeah, we'll have the book out in about 3 weeks. So it's about a 3-week process once you write the book. And we do everything from the PR, get you on the news. We've got the book covers, the editing, the ebook, the audio book. We do everything for you. So really, as the author, all you're doing is really giving us approval. And like, hey, I like this cover. Hey, I like the interior. Hey, I like this banner. So really, we make it as easy as possible for the author. And we kind of take care of everything.
I'm excited to do it. That's awesome.
And just so you know, like cost wise, the lowest package starts at about $2,500. And then we have different packages on my website. It's jacksonpublish.com. So just jacksonpublish.com, and all my packages and past authors are there. But yeah, we'd love to help anybody that wants to get this story out. This is the time to write it. You got some free time. So
yeah, that's amazing. All right. So how would someone get in touch with you if they want to continue this conversation?
Yeah, so they can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is I am Tay Jackson, Tay Jackson. My website is iamtayjackson.com, and it has all my books there too. If anybody's interested in the ATM book or the book about investing, that's on my site, I am Tay Jackson. And they can email me at info@iamtayjackson.com. So there's multiple ways that they can reach out to me, and there's no cost for a consultation. So if anybody wants to give me a call or send me an email, run a question by me, like I said, I have no problem in helping anybody, because that's why I got into the business in the first place. So.
That is true. You've helped me a ton, and I appreciate it so much. And I'm so, if anybody's listening or whoever's listening, I'm so impressed by your knowledge and your expertise.
Okay.
You're super duper smart, but also you keep me focused on being practical and organized, especially in my finances, with no judgment, because you listen to me go on and on and on, and you just keep me on track. And I really, really appreciate that. My daughter definitely is going to appreciate it in the future. And I thank you for everything, all the shares that you have given me. And we're going to continue this journey together. We're about to start a whole new journey with investing in real estate. So anybody out there who want to join us, we're going to make a whole power team of investors who want to flip properties. So that's it. That's all I have for today. You want to say anything else to the people?
That's all I have too. We're good to go.
All right. That was about an hour. So thank you for watching. Tune in next Tuesday. His information is in the whatever you call that below. And thank you again.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.